What's up, everybody? I'm Trevor Sikkema. That's Mike Renner. This is Pro Football Focus, and today we are talking about 5 rookies. Well, I guess technically it's 10 rookies that Mike and I believe can start in their first seasons here in the NFL. Mike, this is going to be a lot of fun. Me and you going back and forth, giving the people what they want, which are sleeper picks, under the radar guys, people who are going to perform right away. And with me and you being draft guys, this is the bread and butter. So I'm excited to see who your 5 guys are for this list. You want to kick it off for us? You want to go with the very first one? This is guys who we think can start right away this year.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. And no first rounders here. No early picks. Those ones are too easy. Those guys are supposed to start.
We can't be cowards about it. That was the only stipulation that we had, is that we can't be cowards and pick like first round top 10 guys. So it is a little bit.
Had to go out on limbs here. And this limb I'm willing to stand on. I think one quarterback ends up starting week 1 out of this rookie class. Obviously, draft-wise, it didn't get drafted very highly. I do not believe Kenny Pickett's starting in Pittsburgh week 1 from everything I've heard there. But the one guy I think has a chance to win the job, Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, obviously going head-to-head with Marcus Mariota there, 2 similarly tooled players. But I think he's NFL ready. And I think if you're the Atlanta Falcons, organizationally, you want to see what you got. You want to give him every opportunity because you're going to be in next year's draft class too in terms of the quarterback position. So Desmond Ridder, thought he was the most NFL-ready quarterback in this draft class, had only 9 turnover-worthy plays last year. That's the fourth fewest among all FBS starters. So from that perspective, I think he comes in and gives you the ability to start right away. And I think the Falcons organizationally will want him to start right away.
Yeah, you and I talked about this in the pre-draft process. I mean, if there was anybody who was clean enough from a mechanic standpoint, footwork, throwing motion, processing, everything to start right away, it's probably going to be Desmond Ridder. So I do agree with you. If anybody's really got the best chance to start right away, probably him for the quarterback position. I'm going to go with a different quarterback, though. I'm going to say Matt Corral from Ole Miss. And this is an interesting one because, again, a lot of people talk pre-draft process. What's he going to be outside of Lane Kiffin's offensive system? So I think there might be a little bit of a learning curve there for him. But if he picks it up very quickly, Mike, the thing that I pointed to was when you look at Sam Darnold, he just wasn't confident with Carolina. And he wasn't confident with his time with the New York Jets either. You look at how he was throwing intermediate to deep. Had a 62.9 PFF grade when throwing intermediate and deep. That is night and day different when you look at Matt Corral and what he was at Ole Miss. Over 90, an elite grade, throwing intermediate, throwing deep. And so we know that Matt Corral ain't short on confidence. And so, like, if Sam Darnold's not doing it, if he's not inspiring the guys that they need to attack down the field, why not take a shot at Matt Corral? Give him the chance, give him the start. And that's, of course, seeing that Baker Mayfield wouldn't be on the roster, which maybe that'll be the case. But if not, give Matt Corral a chance. I think that he has an opportunity to start right away.
See, I agree with the reasoning there. I don't think Carolina themselves agrees with that reasoning, though. Like they gave up so much for Sam Darnold, and we on the outside can be like, yeah, that's a sunk cost. You're not getting those picks back, whether Darnold works out or whether he doesn't. But I think they're going to give Darnold every single chance to succeed there, and that means he's going to get probably half a season to sink or swim if they don't trade for Baker Mayfield. So like I said, love the thought process. I just don't think it happens with Carolina.
Listen, look, all I'm saying is that David Tepper and Matt Rule can talk about patience all they want, but this season, Matt Corral's clock is ticking like a Vecna grandfather clock in Stranger Things, man. That thing's getting louder and louder and louder, and until you play another quarterback who might give you a chance, I think it is a sunk cost. So those are our first 2 guys. Who's next for you?
I'm going to go to the wide receiver position here. I have David Bell, the Purdue wide receiver, 3rd-round pick of the Cleveland Browns. I have him probably being the number 2 wide receiver, or at least the slot wide receiver there in the Cleveland Browns offense. There's obviously the ready-made role that Jarvis Landry left in that offense that, truthfully, David Bell fills to a very strong degree. They're very similar players. Jarvis Landry coming out, ran the 4.7s. David Bell is a high 4.6 guy. That's why he falls down boards. It's not how he plays the wide receiver position. He's kind of the opposite of last year's 3rd-round pick, Anthony Schwartz, in that they have to teach Schwartz how to play wide receiver. He has all the tools. They don't have to teach Bell to do anything, but he has none of the tools. He is not a specimen in terms of size, speed, explosiveness, but the man can catch the football. He can get open underneath, and I think he fills that role in that offense. That's a reliable underneath type of weapon that, again, you look at this depth chart, there's just not a lot to go off of that. I think he can easily slot in to the slot there.
Yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense. When I went through and I was grading David Bell, you're right. There's not a ton of athletic traits that you're writing down that he could really hang his hat on. but the dude just gets open. Like, he just understands how to play wide receiver. It's like you're just sticking him in a family football game, and he's just open all the time, and he ends up being the MVP, and he gets all the targets. And that was David Bell. So I think you're totally right. That role already exists for them. So you can. There weren't many teams that I think David Bell could come in and start with right away. Cleveland is definitely one of them. I'll stick with wide receiver. I'm going to go with Khalil Shakir from Boise State, a guy that I really like, gets drafted by the Buffalo Bills on day 3. Man, I like Shakir's skill set, and I love how polished he is for the position. He's got so much experience. They have leaned on him so much, and the thing that really stands out to me is how many snaps, or how many targets, I should say, the Buffalo Bills are vacating from the roster last year. Over 100 targets for Cole Beasley, 72 targets for Emmanuel Sanders. Those guys aren't there anymore. Yeah, they still have Gabe Davis. They're going to lean on him a little bit. They've got James Crowder as well. But Khalil Shakir, kind of like what you were saying with David Bell, like there's a spot for him to basically do what he does well, right, with Cleveland. That's the case in Buffalo. You could put Khalil Shakir exactly where you want to with him. And almost had over 1,000 snaps from the slot alone coming out of Boise State. So that's my guy who I think that he could start right away. We know it's an offense. It's going to love to spread their guys out, get as many offensive weapons as they can on the field. So I'm going to go Khalil Shakir. I'll stick with wide receiver and go with him.
Yeah, I love this call out. And Shakir could not have landed in a better spot for him, truthfully, because of the role they have with Cole Beasley, or was there with Cole Beasley that now isn't there, which was he was just running those underneath option routes, 20 times a game. And option routes take savvy, and they take short area quickness. Khalil Shakir in this draft class, about as savvy as it gets and about short area quick as it gets. So, again, could not have landed in a better role for him. Have to agree with there. And he was not, this was not a day 2, guys. This is a day 3 type of wide receiver. This is a day 3 pick of wide receiver.
Who's next for you? Who you got next? Who's your number 3 guy?
Next guy on my list, I'll stick with wide receiver here. I'm going to go to Romeo Doubs, the Nevada wide receiver. Not the first wide receiver drafted by the Green Bay Packers, but I think he may be the most impactful as a rookie. Just watching Christian Watson's tape, I see him as a little bit more of a project. And the thing I worry about Watson are his hands. He had the highest drop rate of any drafted wide receiver in this draft class, over 13%. Romeo Doubs has very sure hands, only a 5.8% career drop rate, and just that wide receiver depth chart. Again, going back to these depth charts, that's how these guys end up seeing the field initially, because you're not given the chances as a later pick unless there is a path to see the football field. Sammy Watkins, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers, those guys aren't scared of anybody. If he shows out as a rookie at all, he's going to get every opportunity to succeed. And I think he is, as an older senior coming out of Nevada, very productive there. So I think he factors in. Maybe he's not, the number 2 wide receiver there, number 3 wide receiver, but I think he is a factor in that wide receiver rotation.
I think a lot of people agree with you that Doubs is on a team in a spot where he can definitely play right away. This next one that I want to bring to the table, I got to tell you, this is the one that I am the most confident in. I don't know if it's cheating or not, but I'll explain it. It's Marcus Jones, the cornerback from Houston, who goes to the New England Patriots. And the man is 5'8". I get it. He is a smaller corner, but if anybody watched his tape going into the draft process, you start to care less and less about the size. He is such a fantastic playmaker. He'll get right up in your face when playing in the slot in man coverage, had an elite coverage grade when playing in man coverage last year. You look at the Patriots, play a lot of man coverage. They played cover 1 second most, I think, in the NFL when it came to percentages. Over 32% of their defensive snaps were with man coverage underneath. And so you put Marcus Jones in a spot where he is very comfortable with right away. But the other reason why I'm confident in this one, Mike, dude, Marcus Jones is one of the best special teams players we've seen in the last decade. There was not a single season of college football where he did not have a special teams touchdown. You know for a fact that Bill Belichick is getting that playmaking on the field, at least in the kick and punt return game. He also was known to catch a few passes as a moonlighting wide receiver when the team needed him back at Houston. So figured Belichick could get creative there as well. So because Marcus Jones can play in so many different spots, one of the most dynamic players in this past draft class, I think he's going to have a chance to start right away somewhere, even if it might not be a corner right away.
Yeah, I mean, he won a game last year with kick return touchdown in the final 2 minutes against SMU. Every single time he touched the ball, he was electric. And honestly, seeing Bill Belichick's draft and draft history, I think that's why he got drafted in the 3rd round. Was on the backs of that special teams play. But I do think with that cornerback depth chart, he's going to see the field, and he lands in a great spot because you're just looking at the negatives. Anyone's scouting report, not even just mine, look at the negatives from him. They pretty much all revolve around how big he is. They pretty much all just, he's 5'8", 180 pounds. That is something that Bill Belichick is going to hide because they play matchups with their cornerbacks in New England. You're going to get your bigger cornerback, your Jawan Williamses of the world, on the bigger wide receivers, and you're going to get Marcus Jones on the speeder, shorter wide receivers, so it's not really going to matter that much. So I agree with you there. I do think he sees a good amount of playing time this upcoming season.
Who's next for you? Who's number 4?
I'm going to go the defensive side of the ball as well here, and I'm going to go Cameron Thomas, the San Diego State edge. Nice. Got drafted in the 3rd round by the Arizona Cardinals, another spot where they lost Chandler Jones and did not really replace him. And they waited to the 3rd round to draft a guy in Cameron Thomas who, you look at early mocks last year, January mocks, Cameron Thomas in a lot of first rounds. That's because his tape was great at San Diego State. He was the Mountain West Aiden Hutchinson. He had more pressures than Aiden Hutchinson did, in fact, last season. But just his pre-draft process, got injured day 1 of the Senior Bowl, didn't play a single snap in practice, didn't get to test at the combine, didn't get to test at a pro day. So no one really knows. How athletic is this guy? How well is he going to translate to better competition? I think he is going to, because having watched his tape, I do think he has that quicks and that power in his hands and a number of pass rushing moves to make an impact to where you get him across from J.J. Watt, a guy you can learn a lot from stylistically because they are similar style players, and I think Cameron Thomas makes an impact.
All right, I'm going to stay along defensive line for my 4th pick. I'm going to go with DeAngelo Malone, the edge rusher from the Atlanta Falcons. Now, he was picked a little bit later, and so a lot of people might go, okay, he's a smaller guy, kind of a speed specialist. You really sure he's going to get a starting shot, Trev? Well, anybody out there who didn't know this, the Atlanta Falcons were dead last in the NFL in total sacks last year with 18. 18? It's unthinkable. The next closest team was 29. The Falcons were so bad at getting after the pass rusher, and they really did not add much outside of the draft. They added Arnold Ebiketie, who I think is going to be fantastic, a 2nd-round pick. Definitely think that he's going to start right away. But if Malone can show, even if he's just flashes of speed, that's better than what they had the year before. So put on the defensive line, just put the beef there and let him attack from the outside, let him attack from the wide angles, let him get the most out of his speed. Another thing that I really like about him, Mike, over 3,000 snaps to his college career. So it's not like this guy is coming into the NFL still really green for his position. He knows what he does well. He knows how to play it. And yeah, there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment time making the jump from Western Kentucky up to the NFL, but he's got those reps. He's got that confidence. That's what you want to see from players who potentially can start right away. So it's the opportunity, it's the talent level, but it's also the experience. I think DeAngelo Malone checks all of those boxes for a good opportunity to play a lot in his first year with the Atlanta Falcons.
I love the playing time call out there because when you think of small school guys, Western Kentucky, you think not NFL ready. It's going to be a steep transition, and that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. I mean, Darius Leonard came from South Carolina State and then was the rookie of the year defensively. So it is not always the case. And like you said, 5 years as a starter, he was there at Western Kentucky because he took advantage of obviously the COVID 5th year. And you saw he knows how to rush the passer. You saw that at the Senior Bowl going up against NFL tackles, guys that are not playing in the NFL. You saw him beating them a number of different ways because of that experience. So I'd push back on any sort of billing of DeAngelo Malone as a not NFL ready guy. I agree with you. He is going to be on every 3rd down for that Falcons defense.
All right, last one, 5th guys for each of us. Who you got?
All right, I'm going to go with the hometown Bengals here. I got the Houday shirt on, and I think this guy has a chance to start in at left guard, replacing Jack Carman. They obviously completely overhauled the right side of that line, center position in Cincinnati. But Jack Carman, the one kind of, is he going to be good next year after a rough rookie season for them? I think CORDELL VOLSON, their day 3 pick along the interior of the offensive line. I think at least from a pass protection standpoint, I'm going to trust him more out the gate than Jack Carman. And truthfully, if you are head coach Zach Taylor, if you're trying to win games this year, it revolves around Joe Burrow and his health. And if CORDELL VOLSON can pass protect better than Jack Carman, I don't really care about the difference in the run game. I think Jack's a people mover in the run game for sure, but CORDELL VOLSON went to the Shrine Bowl, and on 49 pass blocking snaps over the entire week of practice, he allowed 1 pressure. That's amongst the one-on-ones, the practice reps, live drills, whatever. He was not losing there on the interior. Obviously played tackle at North Dakota State, but now on the interior, uses his hands really, really well. I do think he has a good chance of starting there for the Cincinnati Bengals.
I got to sit down and talk with him when we were at the Shrine Bowl as well. And I mean, dude loves football. Like, dude is all about it. So he's going to be mentally ready for that starting spot if the opportunity arises. I'm going to stick with the offensive line. We didn't call each other and align these, but it actually worked out pretty well. I'm gonna say DARIAN KINNARD, and I have to, right? Because this is a player who, in my grading system, I would have had as a fringe first round, second round kind of a pick. I thought he was that good. I was in love with how well he could move, with the power that he had, the body type, the fact that he's played on the interior, the fact that he's played at left tackle. He's got so much versatility to him. He ends up going a lot later, ends up being a day 3 guy, and it's got to be because of injuries. There's got to be some injury concerns there. But if he's fully healthy, man, you look at the last 3 years that he played on Kentucky's offensive line. 89.2, 91.5, 91.1. Those were his PFF grades for 3 consecutive seasons. That's absolutely fantastic. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, where he ended up landing. They've got Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, and Creed Humphrey, one of the strongest left sides of the offensive line that you're going to find in the NFL. They also have Trey Smith, who's fantastic for them as a right guard. But then that right tackle spot, who's it going to be? It's going to be Andrew Wiley. He's kind of the incumbent there. They've got Lucas Niang. They brought in some guys from free agency. But I think that if DARIAN KINNARD is healthy, give him the shot, man. Because if he is healthy and he can play up to that level that we saw at Kentucky, you have a young, strong offensive line that you can count on for years. That's going to get continuity for the next 2-3 years before you even have any contract threats of any of those guys leaving. And so that is one where the opportunity is there. He got drafted way later than I thought he should have. And if he is healthy, man, I think he's got a legit shot to win that right tackle position in Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years in the SEC, starting at a high level. And I get that first 2 years of that was super run heavy. It was a gimmicky sort of, and, you know, they had Lynn Bowden playing quarterback at times, a wide receiver. So it was not always drop back and pass protect, which is kind of the worry with him heading into the NFL. But, man, you don't teach guys that big to move that well, to engage and lock up with SEC defenders the way he did, these athletes that are very translatable to the NFL, what he'll see at the next level. So when you're comparing him to Lucas Niang, who is another guy who was not that particularly NFL ready, did not hit the ground running in year 2 after opting out his rookie season for COVID, man, I do think he has a good shot of winning that job at right tackle.
There we go. The title of the episode, I don't know if it's going to say 5 rookies who could start right away or if it's actually going to be 10. But we gave you guys 10. We weren't cowards about it. We didn't pick first-round picks. Some guys throughout the draft that we believe have a chance to start right away. It was a talented draft class. It was a fun draft class. This is a good exercise. Guys, let us know what you thought. If you agree with our points, if you disagree with our points, and if there are a handful of rookies that you think, I'll say anywhere from round 2 to even undrafted, that you believe have a good chance at starting or being major contributors right away, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up in the comments. That's Mike Renner. I'm Trevor Sikkema. We'll see you guys next time.